Sorry. Don't hate me. I had car stuff, and then I couldn't find my keys. And...
You don't get to just blow in here acting like you care all of a sudden.
I'm not acting. Ma is dead.
Read the will, please.
Your mother rarely spoke of her childhood.
And she never spoke of it. And she always dodged our questions.
Well, in the end, she decided to talk.
I had promised myself I would take all of this with me to my grave. I didn't want to burden you with the weight of it. But I must confess, Eleanor is not my real name.
Covey, wait!
I had to protect you from the life I was forced to have.
I have a way that you can erase all your debts.
My daughter is only 16.
No better age for a wife.
In order to ensure my safety, someone would have to die.
None of this makes sense. I mean, did Dad know any of this?
With the stress of all these secrets weighing on her, she must have felt so alone. For the rest of my life, I'm gonna keep looking over my shoulder.
What are you running from?
Betrayal is a powerful thing, but love brings the light that will guide you out of your darkest moments.
How many more secrets was Ma keeping?
She has a story, our story. We just have to keep listening. Some secrets are best left buried.
Here's to the past. May it not blow up our present.
This is your story too.
Hi, Marissa, Carolyn. First, here's what happened in Carolyn Talks podcast. First of all, I have to thank you for making this series because I'm Barbadian, I'm Bajan. So, like, seeing the Caribbean and Jamaica represented in this way on screen is very rare for me. The only other project this year was one called The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sarah Collins, who's a Jamaican writer. So, like, one of the things I love that this show does, it shows things like the surfing culture that is very rich in the Caribbean. It's the same in Barbados. Surfing is very big there. But I love how you talk, how there you interject. In a way, like, dispel a lot of myths that people have of the Caribbean, even Black people would have of the Caribbean, such as the meaning behind Black cake. Black cake has such a very tumultuous past, you know? Surfing itself has a very tumultuous past. In the Caribbean, it was very restricted for a lot of Black people, and right now it's cost prohibitive for a lot of us. So talk about dispelling particular myths about the Caribbean using the show, you know? Like, for instance, the whole idea of fast. Like, one of the characters mentioned, oh, she fasts. And that's a word we use a lot in the Caribbean to talk about the hypersexualization of Black girls and Black women. So talk about just dispelling particular myths about the Caribbean and Caribbean culture and Caribbean people used in this series.
Well, I think that what we did was just tell the truth. And it was never an intention of like, let's dispel myths, because I mean, I'm the most American Midwestern, you know, grew up in Illinois. Like, I had no idea until I read the book, but until I went to Jamaica, until I lived there, until I was prepping there, until I was hanging out with people, until I was talking about politics and what is your life like and different rituals and what is the food you actually eat and what do you actually want and what do you think is missing and how do you feel about this project, you know, coming here. Like, I felt like that was the only way to that's the only way to get to know anybody or any culture, is just to like immerse yourself or to ask questions. And I'm so grateful, especially to Shane, who was my driver. And I was like bawling when I got on the plane to leave because I just connected with him so much. It was such an honest relationship of him talking about his life and his actually what his perception of living in the United States was. And I got to dispel some myths for him as well. But I think it was just telling the truth. And just showing, you know, coming of age, a 16-year-old girl coming of age in this community, might look a little different than coming of age in your community, but she's going through the same things. She's trying to find her voice. Her community is actually much prettier than your community. But I just wanted to tell the truth. And I think that and I hope that it comes across without like we're trying to teach you anything, because we're all so layered. There are so many nuances to all of us, and this particular community in this world where she lived in had its own culture. And I think learning about the Chinese community in Jamaica, which I didn't know until I read Charmaine's book, and until I did my own research and I watched documentaries and I read books and I looked up Chinese shopkeepers in Jamaica. And then of course, when I'm there, I see Chinese shopkeepers in Jamaica when you go down the big row of all the little shops, and just showing it as it was. And I was just thankfully to Charmaine for writing this book, because it opened up my eyes to so many things I didn't know because I wasn't taught any of them. And I hope that it can make people see that it is so much more than the backdrop of a postcard. Because that's how I feel like we usually see these stories, is like, oh, some Americans or Europeans are on vacation and their story unfolds, and then but they aren't the main characters. And I just didn't, obviously that would be impossible, but I just didn't want any hint of that. And that even goes for production design, costumes. We didn't want anything to look costumey. We wanted it to look like cool clothes these cool girls in the 1960s in Jamaica would wear. We wanted the hairstyle. We just wanted the pool club. What did the pool club, what did it look, the swim club, what did they look like? I think people also had this idea of poverty. And I knew that when we brought on our team, our department heads, I was like, Covey is a middle-class girl, and we'll see that side. We'll see where people are living in the different homes than her father, the type of home he lives in, and Bunny and Gibbs. I mean, they're these middle-class kids, but I didn't want to portray it as anybody as a stereotype. And no matter where they came from, I just wanted them to have layers, and hopefully that came across. And the same with Little Man, with this bad guy who has impeccably tailored suits. His hair is always looking right. I wanted him to be this elegant man, even though he's a monster. And so anyway, and we did that by looking at pictures a lot from people who lived there, from their photo albums of the time, what were people really doing with their hair? What would a man like Little Man how would he present himself to the world? So I hope I answered your question, but I think again, it's just telling the truth was the mandate, and I hope that we did as much as we could.
As a born and raised West Indian, Caribbean, Bajan, I can say you guys nailed it on the head. The hair, the clothing, my grandmother, my mom, my aunt wore those clothes. And also I just want to say props to the cinematographers, because I love the ocean. I love the sea. That's my favorite beach back home in Barbados. So I love how the sea is shot, and I love how it reflects in the set design and the costuming. So amazing. I just props to the cinematographers and the set designers.
Thank you. They are so talented, and the water is mandate water everywhere. Feel the water, hear the water, smell the water, even if you don't see the water. So I'm glad that you felt that.